Everyone believes inflation is just a fact of life. Like the weather, authority figures claim it is a sign of a growing economy. But here is the paradox. Technology makes things cheaper to produce. So why does the cost of living keep going up? The answer is not that things are becoming more valuable. It is that your money is becoming worthless. This is capital and conquest, where economics, power, and history collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it looks. Inflation is not an accident. It is the architecture of the modern world. It is a hidden mechanism designed to transfer wealth from the people who work for money to the people who print it. To understand why your grocery bill is skyrocketing in 2025, we need to go back to ancient Rome, because the trick they used 2,000 years ago is the exact same trick being used on you today. In 64 AD, Rome was the master of the known world. Its legions were undefeated. Its trade routes spanned 3 continents. At the heart of this system was the silver denarius. For citizens of the empire, this coin was more than money. It was trust. It contained 4.5 grams of pure silver. It was the standard by which all labor and goods were measured. But the Emperor Nero had a problem. He had expensive tastes, a massive army to pay, and a treasury that was running dry. He could not raise taxes without causing a revolt, so he decided to change the rules of the game. In 64 AD, a great fire had devastated Rome. Rebuilding cost a fortune. Nero needed money, and he needed it fast. The Roman economy relied on the purity of the denarius. Soldiers fought for it because they knew exactly what it was worth. Merchants accepted it from Britain to Egypt. The system worked because the silver was real. But Nero found a way to cheat the system. He ordered the mint to reduce the silver purity of the denarius from 100% down to 90%. He mixed in cheap copper to make up the difference. It was the first time in history a government officially debased its currency. They thought no one would notice. They were wrong. Later, emperors accelerated the scam. By the time of Marcus Aurelius in 161 AD, the coin was only 75% silver. By the reign of Emperor Gallienus in the mid-200s, the denarius contained less than 5% silver. It was just a copper coin, washed in silver dye. The consequences were catastrophic. Merchants refused to accept the coins at face value. Prices soared. Soldiers demanded higher pay to compensate for the worthless money. This forced emperors to print even more junk coins. The Roman economy disintegrated. Trade networks fractured. The middle class was wiped out as their savings evaporated. What survived? Not the people holding the denarius. The survivors were the elites who held physical gold and land. These were assets the emperor could not debase. If this sounds familiar, it should. Since the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, the US dollar has lost 96% of its purchasing power. We do not clip coins anymore. We just click a button on a computer. But the theft is identical. But Rome is not the only example. Fast forward to the 18th century, and the same story repeats. In 1789, France was bankrupt. The revolution had toppled the monarchy, but the new government had no money to run the country. The revolutionary government came up with a brilliant new idea. They seized all the land owned by the Catholic Church. This was about 20% of all land in France. They issued paper money called Assignats. These were not just paper. They were like mortgage securities, backed directly by the value of that seized land. It seemed like a solid plan. But politicians are addicted to spending. They printed 400 million assignats, then another 800 million, then another billion. They disconnected the paper from the land value completely. They printed money to pay for wars, to pay for bread subsidies, to pay for everything. Hyperinflation exploded. By 1795, a loaf of bread that once cost pennies cost a wheelbarrow of cash. In just 6 years, the currency became totally worthless. People were burning money for heat because it was cheaper than buying wood. Who survived? The speculators. Those who borrowed massive amounts of assignats to buy real estate, then paid back their loans with worthless paper. The debtors got rich. The savers got crushed. This is exactly what happens during periods of low interest rates today. The wealthy borrow cheap money to buy assets, driving up prices. Meanwhile, regular savers see their bank accounts yield nothing. By now, the picture should be clear. Whether it is the Roman Empire in the 3rd century or France in the 18th century, the same themes repeat. The pattern is simple. Governments spend more than they earn. They cannot raise taxes without angering the people. So they choose the invisible tax called debasement. They dilute the currency supply to pay their bills. The elite protect themselves with real assets. Ordinary people are left holding worthless paper. From the denarius to the assignat to the dollar, the story is the same. The many pay, the few profit. So, what does this mean for us today? The most chilling part of history is that this pattern is not just ancient or distant. It is happening now. In 2020 alone, the United States printed nearly 20% of all US dollars in existence. They told you it was transitory. They told you it was stimulus. But look at the results. Housing prices went up. Food prices went up. Energy prices went up. We are living through the same pattern described in Rome. The currency is being shaved not with clippers but with quantitative easing. Your savings account is bleeding value every single day. If inflation is 7% and your bank pays you 0.5%, you are losing 6.5% of your wealth annually. That is not a savings account. That is a slow leak. So how do you protect yourself when the currency is under attack? History shows there is no single answer, but there are consistent principles. First, understand that cash is a liability. In every historical collapse, the people who held currency were the victims. The system is designed to punish savers. Second, real wealth cannot be printed. The survivors in Rome held land. The survivors in Weimar Germany held gold or foreign currencies. The survivors in modern times hold equities, real estate, or hard assets. Third, never assume stability is permanent. The Roman citizen in 60 AD thought the denarius was eternal. The French citizen in 1790 thought the government would be responsible. They were wrong. The survivors of history were not those who trusted blindly. They were those who recognized the fragility of the system and prepared. The history of money is a history of broken promises. Inflation is not a natural phenomenon. It is a policy choice. It is a deliberate transfer of wealth from your pocket to the state treasury. So the question is not whether the currency will continue to lose value. History shows it will. The question is whether you will be one of the many who work harder for money that buys less, or one of the few who opt out of the game. History does not repeat, but if you do not understand it, it will crush you all the same. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers, and I will show you where to look.